Flosstube. It's Arlene here. It is Tuesday, November 1st, 2022. I know it's been over a month since I've posted my last video, but it's been on my mind, and here I am today. For those who don't know, I am a teacher. The beginning of the school year is always that hump to get back into the routines of things. My stitching remains super important and fills a lot of my time, but there's also this teaching side of me that I work with a number of students in a number of different teaching capacities. But here I am. One of the main pushes to I need to get a video out is wanting to share with you some new things, particularly some new designs I'm putting out for today. For those who don't know, I design under the name Works by ABC. You can find my store on Etsy. Links will be down below. The last designs I put out were in late August for Needlework Expo. And I am definitely planning ahead to Nashville in March of 2023. But it's really good to have something in between there. I know now that we are literally a day past Halloween, a lot of the Christmas and holiday things start coming out. Well, plenty of Christmas and holiday things come out before then, but I've seen some jokey things online today about at the stroke of midnight, all the pumpkins and pumpkin spice disappeared, and out comes the gingerbread and the Christmas carols and all of that. So if you know anything about my designing style, I'm not a holiday person typically, and as those words are coming out of my mouth, I have to sort of clarify a little bit, but let me just jump right into sharing with you. So I have two new designs to share with you today. The first one is winter themed. So sure, you could do it for a holiday decoration, but it's absolutely something that can stay out past December 25th or thereabouts. And this is my winter. Got some light things going on here. This is my winter Biscornu stack. Boy, do I have it washed. Oh, if I do this, it'll be better. I have it so washed out with the lights. If I do that, I do this. Man, I got some weird. All right, bear with me here, people. Maybe you could see it there. Well, what is hard to show. Oh, there we go. We got it. I have stitched my models on a sparkly fabric. It is a 25 count Lugana, just called silver white. It's, because it's a white fabric with silver running through it. There is also this sparkly fabric in like a iridescent color, and I think also in a gold color. For me, it's blue and silver that speaks winter. It's being called a winter Biscornu stack because there will be other Biscornu stacks. I've already basically planned out. Turn this back on. I don't know what's the best light situation here. The spring Biscornu stack will be one of my Nashville releases, and the summer one will probably come out end of May, beginning of June. Something between Nashville and Expo. And next Expo is all this planned out will be my autumn one. And those haven't been designed yet, but that's the vision, that if I'm going to do a seasonal thing, why not go for it completely? Now, truly what inspired this is a design that I have coming out in Just Cross Stitch magazine. So in the February 2023 edition, which I guess you start seeing in late December, because it's kind of like a January-February issue, you just might see something that kind of is familiar here. And when I created it, I was like, I like this so much. I don't just want to have it in the magazine. And so it's now going to be a series coming from me, starting with the seasons. So what you see are three Biscornus. The top one, the small, let's turn off the lights again. The top one says winter. Maybe you can see it. Oh, there we go, winter. The middle one says snowflakes and snowmen. And then the large one is sweater and scarf and mittens. They are geometrical. Snowflakes is basically the theme of these designs that are on there. And all of them have a bottom to it in sort of a traditional Biscornu look that, you know, there's only stuff around the sides because the center gets sitting on the ground. And I just love how it stacks up like this. Again, so I stitched it on the sparkly fabric, and I used Color Classic Works Blue Beatrice. It's lovely. It's only a mild variegation. I mean, it's very close to DMC 160, and the kind of stitcher I am in terms of keeping things simple. In retrospect, I wish I had just stitched with DMC 160. It's a beautiful blue. It's a blue that really appeals to me. So I'm excited to see some Biscornus in the making. The winter Biscornu stack. Linked below will be directly go to the link on my Etsy store of both the paper copy that I will mail to you, as well as a PDF copy if you're like, I want to start it right now. And for each of these, I just had a little seed bead that I put in the center. I was like looking into like snowflake things and sparkly things, and I'm like, you know what? A little seed bead was perfect. So if you have never made a Biscornu before, they are, in my opinion, easier than they look or than you might think. I can remember years ago when I first saw one, and I was like, oh my God, how do you create this thing? And then somebody showed me, well, you start with just 2 squares. And I'm like, all right, I can handle 2 squares. There are plenty of tutorials online that have been done that literally take you step by step, both in pictures and in video, on how to assemble a Biscornu. It's a great like finishing technique to kind of keep in your back pocket for any time you have any kind of square shape. The typical Biscornu is certainly a square like this. There's some variations that I've played with and I don't know, haven't been excited about. But there you go. So my first design to share with you is this winter Biscornu stack. You know, let me leave the light like that for a moment so I can share with you the second one. So what I started to say before was how I'm not really a holiday designer / stitcher. Then I paused and realized what I'm about to show you is a holiday design. For those who don't know, I am Jewish. I grew up Jewish. I am very aware of the beautiful and amazing collections of Christmas designs that come around this time of year. But there's plenty of us in the stitching world that appreciate the Hanukkah designs. And so for the last few years, I have put out Hanukkah designs, and I just realized I had meant to pull out the models of my previous Hanukkah designs, and I didn't. That's okay. So for this year, I am sharing with you Festival of Lights. So I'm trying to get you to see, maybe, that I stitched it with Etoile. All right, just out of amusement, let me turn off this other light and see if that, maybe you can see the sparkle there. So I stitched this with Etoile. The candles and the words or the letters of Festival of Lights and the flames of the candle. So here we go. I used Etoile 725 and 433, and I used a gold treasure braid for the candle flames. I was almost going to use gold beads. Could have gone either way. I just went with this. I love using the Etoile. I have found myself using it more and more in designs, and part of it is because it's, to me, relatively accessible in that in my local area I can find it at my Michael's. Not always perfect, I don't have it, but in general I can find it at Michael's. So while it's great to when I can get to an LNS and buy it, they're wonderful. And I've heard that apparently it's not available at all Michael's. All I could say is I found it in the couple that are around me. So I like using it as a thread to be something a little bit different than the typical DMC, but without going to the lengths, it's too strong of a word, of some of the specialty threads that are out there. And when you want a little sparkle, it actually is the perfect thread. So it says Happy Hanukkah around the edges. I stitched it on a 32 count blue spruce from Zweigart. These are the colors that worked on this fabric. I'd originally started the letters with a darker brown, and it was just too strong. And I even had, actually the original plan was to do the Festival of Light letters in the gold gold petite treasure braid, and that just, it completely washed out. So I mean, perfect example of a designer that, I am someone who, as of now, have not yet looked out for model stitchers, partially because I feel like I design something and then make changes as I go, and it's hard to imagine, or I've designed something and somebody else is going to bring it to life, and I don't have the opportunity to fix anything that I don't like. Anyway, so this was a great example of me playing around until I can find a combination that worked. My other Hanukkah designs have been a little bit more of the traditional, not quite royal blue, like a deeper blue, that I just wanted something a little different this year. And so I went with this. So Festival of Lights, also available in my Etsy store. Link down below is a direct link to both the paper copy that will get mailed to you, or a PDF copy if you want to get started right away. And there is back stitching, just to know that both the words and then around the edges of the candle. Talk about another thing that I hadn't thought about but needed to put in because I was stitching it. I struggled with, again, making these festival light letters showing, and I realized it was because the brown was connecting too much with the blue fabric. But to put in a line of back stitching, which you may or may not be able to see around the candles, made all the difference. Like, if I didn't put in this back stitching, I don't think the letters, like, just pick this, the edge of that F, it just wasn't as sharply defined. So if you are interested in a Hanukkah design for this year, perhaps you will enjoy stitching my little here. It's a pillow. It actually, I meant to double check this. It's pretty close to fitting in a 5x7 frame. Like the dimensions, I think, would look pretty evenly distributed, centered. So just keep that in mind if you take a look at, this is on a 32 count fabric. Obviously that frame suggestion might change if you're doing it on something radically different. Oh, and that, I wanted to point out, if I said it already, if I didn't, so I stitched the biscornus on 25 count over 2. This is a larger size stitch than I typically do. I like to stay in the 32, sometimes 36, talk about 36 in a moment. I've done 28 in the last couple years because of a color of fabric that I really liked. And this was kind of what happened here. I knew I wanted this silver sparkle. And at least to the extent I was looking, I could only find it in this Lugana 25 count. And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to stitch something different. In my planning out of the other seasonal biscornu stacks, I have some variety going on. And while anyone who would be looking at pictures would not necessarily see a difference of sizes, I'm looking forward to seeing how my vision will play out in person once, as the year goes on and I get the others stitched. So, related to new patterns and my Etsy store, I decided it's time for a sale. So November is my birthday month, and I know it's sort of a combination of giving you all a birthday present from me, and you purchasing from me is certainly a birthday present to me. So this is my biggest sale ever, 20% off everything, no coupon code needed. All starting today, all my price, you will see all the 20% off. That's both the PDF and the paper copy, and this will go for the next 2 weeks through November 15th. I hope you'll swing by, and this includes even the 2 new patterns. So new patterns, previous patterns, maybe you've had some favorited or even sitting in your shopping cart for a while. Go check it out. I just love the opportunity to see new designers, and when I get notices about sales or things like this, I'll go check it out, see what appeals to me. So please do go check me out, support me. Everyone who's a small business of any kind always appreciates the support like this. So 2 big things on my list for today, the new patterns and the sale on my Etsy store. As is typical, I am excited for what I'm currently stitching, and I don't quite want to show it to you because it is a new design and it is for Nashville. I go back and forth in this whole idea of keeping designs hidden and then just waiting for the big reveal. Versus what if I showed some stitching along the way, on Instagram or on Flosstubes to build up an excitement for something new? I mean, the downside is, somebody sees something they're so excited about on IG and then they want to buy it right away and it's not available right away. And by the time it is available, it doesn't show up in their feed or they kind of forget about it. I mean, that's the negative of trying to, of sharing before design comes out. And the positive is that I don't have to, that I can share, that I can get the enthusiasm from all of you. But I did share my last video about the fabric that I'm stitching on. And I have sort of a slight, I don't know what to call it, update in that this is, to my understanding, I don't know if you can hear the birds because I've got the window open down there and there's a whole bunch of birds passing by. This is a new Zweigart fabric. It's been described to me as a new Zweigart fabric that only comes in 36 count. If you go on Zweigart's website, it's all numbers. They don't have names to their fabric. At my L&S Needleworkers Delight, they've called this Vintage Lantern. And again, in my last video, I was holding up DMCs to try and describe what this looks like because, yes, it's gray, but there's also this like purple, like eggplant tinge to it, which I know is hard for you all to see. But I found something that would be really helpful is here is a piece of charcoal gray. So charcoal gray, Zweigart charcoal gray, versus this. Now this, again, my store is calling it Vintage Lantern. I have seen it, like have checked the numbers and feeling 99.9% confident that this fabric is on 123 stitch and they call it magical gray. And I think when I sort of piece that together, I did do some Googling and it seems like it might be called magical gray in other places. But here you go. You can see, I'm hoping now, that there's it's definitely lighter than a charcoal gray. And I think this does kind of show this purplish tinge that shows up with it. To me, it's such a unique fabric. And if I say already, I'll tell you now, the new design I'm working on is going to be one of my new lace designs. And for all the ones that I've done, needing a good, strong, solid color to stitch with white or some variation of a light color to really make it stand out. And when I saw this in the store, I was like, wow. And especially because I love stitching on 36 count, particularly for these lace / monochrome designs, because I love using Flosh. If you have never seen or used DMC's Flosh, if you can, give it a try. It's not easily, online you can find it. In stores, it's not necessarily the thread that a lot of L&Ss are going to carry for a number of reasons, especially if your store is cross-stitch focused as opposed to needlepoint focused. It only comes in these huge hanks. And it's a little vague, but it's something between 150 and 160 yards. And I mean, it's a decent price for that much thread, but a lot of cross-stitchers are not going to be interested in collecting a bunch of these for their stitching. Totally understandable. It is a thread that is, to me, about 2 strands of a typical DMC floss. Yeah, I don't know. As always, it's hard to tell this kind of stuff. I had someone recently ask me when I said that, 1.5 to 2 strands, and I think it creates great coverage on a 36 count when I want good solid coverage, which, 36 is that many people stitch with 1 strand, but if you want really good coverage, you might stitch with 2, but then it could look about, 36 could be a tough one. Somebody asked me recently comparing the coverage of Flosh to the Sulky Petites, because when those first came out, that was one of their things, is that it's equivalent to 2 or 1.5 to 2, and it was a great question, and I have it in the back of my mind. I want to stitch up a quick little 10 by 10 square of Sulky right next to Flosh just to compare the coverage. I like using the Sulky Petites. I haven't used them that much. I love using a Flosh. It's a very soft. It's very soft. I love it. I also have friends that have tried it and do not like it. So as always, to each his own. I will say if you get a hank of it and you are daunted a little bit, important about when you peel off this label, it becomes a huge loop if you open it up carefully. If you're doing it up in the air and you kind of let go of it, you get a big mess. But if you very carefully pull it off and kind of literally, make sure you have all the loop parts here and the loop part there, you can then do one quick snip and get perfect size strands. And so here, this is a hank that I broke up, that I did one cut right across. Well, it doesn't matter. And then just broke it up I put on 3 or 4, I guess it's only 3, thread drops just to have it easy access. And so, to me, that's the key thing, is don't just think you're going to pull off. You can. I have just learned that sometimes you get a big thread mess because you haven't planned ahead. So the other thing about it, and I meant to check this also before I started this video, if you're familiar with Mary Corbett, she runs an amazing website, Needle and Thread. I'll link it down below. That website is an amazing source for all kinds of things. She is very much into embroidery, but she does reviews of books and threads, and she talks about all kinds of stuff. I'm pretty sure the first time I even heard the word floche, or even was introduced to this, well before I think I ever saw it in any store here in the US, was on her website. And I saw, let's just say it's within the last year, maybe even the last 6 months, that she had a thing going where she so loved floche and was encouraging people to try it, that she sells designs and she sells some things. She bought a whole bunch and broke them up and was selling like thread packs. I don't know how many yards of each color, but in a much smaller quantity, so that people who wanted to give it a try could do so without committing $6 or $7 for this, which again is a good price for this many yards, and it's perfect for a monochrome design. So I don't know if that might have been just a one-time thing and she sold out of them. I don't know, but again, I'm making my plug here. I like this thread. I know not everyone likes the same threads. If you get a chance and are able to, give it a try. It's the lace design that I'm working on now, which is one I really want to share because I want people to be excited about it. And at this moment, I'm the only one that's excited about it. Shared it with a couple of friends who agree to keep it a big secret. As of right now, I'm saying it's my favorite of my lace designs. I think I've said that each time I've created one of them. So we'll see. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you go to my Etsy store and in the search, just search lace, and you will see a number of my designs that have come up, cross stitch, that are based on pieces of lace. Oh, another thing just to share about this new one, in some of my designs, I've done some variations of things where, yes, it's a monochrome design, but like my last one, I had areas that had, I think I used floche, so which is to say thicker 2 strands of floss. I had areas that had 1 strand of floss, and then I even had areas that was 1 strand and just a tent stitch. And that gave, I think, an amazing depth to a piece. I had originally started the design of this with that kind of mentality, that I have that variation as a possibility, and it just wasn't playing out well. And so the one I'm working on right now is complete cross stitch everything in this. And, another thing to share with you, a perfect example of playing with stuff. So again, this is the fabric that I'm using. It's not going to show up well at all because again, this whole light's here. This is B5200, so the bright white. And I was planning to do, I got 2 hanks of it, didn't know if I would need both of them. B5200, got started on it, stitched a little bit, and I was like, something's not right here. And it's one of those things sometimes when you're a stitcher, like, immediately, and sometimes you're like, I don't like this, and I'm struggling to figure out why. And then it occurred to me, and luckily I had some part of a floche that was not B5200, but just plain blanc, like plain white. So I stitched a different area, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. This is a fabric that B5200 was too bright for at least to my eyes. So I was very glad that I had some available that I could test out, see, yep, that's what I need, and immediately went online and ordered a couple hanks of the Blanc. Always keep that in mind when it comes to any white, light colors like that. In addition to B5200 and white, there's some very light ones like 386 something or another, 365. There's the 712. There's a crew. Always kind of keep your mind open because you never know what will look right sometimes until you actually try it. All right. One other major topic on my list for today is actually related to my winter Biscorno stack, as I have planned out, haven't started yet, my spring Biscorno stack. And I was thinking about threads. The blue Beatrice that I used for these, I needed 3 skeins. Now, granted, this was 25 count over 2, so that's alone, that's going to be more thread than if you were stitching, 32 count, or even like 40 count, with only 1 strand. So it took a lot of thread, and I was debating what kind of thread do I want to use for the spring one. And for the big picture planning, I knew I was looking at a green of some kind. Where'd my brain go? Well, my brain went to a lot of places, but one thing that I remembered was using DMC variations. They literally call it variations. This green. And it's a variegated thread that comes from DMC. Again, I see this in my local Michaels, no guarantee that they're in yours. There is, as I've learned in recent days, Michaels only has a limited number of these. If you go on their website, it's not something you can order on their website, but everything I've tried is showing me that 12 colors can be bought at Michaels, and only 12 colors. Go on DMC's website and you learn there are 60 colors of these. Now, I guess I guess I had some of it, and I was contemplating, and then I was like, I wonder what others are there. So what do? I go to my good old DMC color card. Love this. Feel like I cannot be a designer without this. I have the DMC box with all the colors, and that is an amazing source when I'm doing designing. But I usually start with this and then pull thread. Well, a lot of times I pull threads because I have my box organized by the color card, not by number. So if you have one of these color cards, the last panel of threads has, and I'm going to go ahead and call it 2 different sets. This column right here is what I refer to as the original DMC variegated threads. These come with the box. Like when you're getting the wooden box and all the threads that come with it, you get these. The ones that are over here, and I'm trying to see what you all can see. The ones in these 2 columns are the more recent ones. They do not come with the box. I mean, you also do not get like the metallic or the satin ones either, but in the box. These right here, I don't know the exact year, let's just say within the last few years, as opposed to these which are older. When these came out, they are called color variegations, okay? I was just on DMC's website to figure this one out because I felt like they had a different name. And I thought it was variegated as opposed to variations. Now, go on a hunt yourself. I could not find these on DMC's website. Like I was literally, searching for 115, which is that red, which I love. I couldn't find it. Now, I could go to like 1, 2, 3 other places and purchase it, but I thought it was odd that I could not find these on DMC's website. I don't know what's up with that. But when I went on there, because I was looking at that 12 that I could only buy at Michael's, I was looking at how many were here. Well, what did I discover? There are 60 of these color variations. 60. I had no idea there was that many. I printed this is from DMC's website. I couldn't tell you exactly where I found it, but it's a list. It's a thread list and I'll explain my notes in a second. But what I loved about this was, in addition to, there were names, which I didn't realize that DMC is good at giving names, or some of these names are really appealing. So this one, to start with the green, that I'm pretty sure I'll be using for my spring Biscorno stack, which is 4045. They call it Evergreen Forest. And what's great about this chart is they show you what are the solid DMC colors that this is made of. And I feel like years ago when I first learned about this stuff, I couldn't find a chart like this online, but I love it that I found it now. So just if you're looking at what I'm holding up, this is made up of 319, 367, and 320. So I had a few. This one, of the ones that I've had and seen in person, I'll go ahead and declare as my favorite. I also did a design with this. It is a blue, purple. It's richer colors than what's showing up right now. Deeper. Love this one. Well, the next time I was at Michael's, I had one of those 20% off everything, your whole non-sale things. So I bought all that Michael has, one of each. You go on DMC's website, you learn that they have all 60 of them, like you could buy all 60 of them. So tempting, but it's not available right now. I think they're just out of some of them, so you can't buy the whole 60. Like, well, am I that into this right now that I want to know? And it's kind of take a deep breath. So these, I think I've got it right, are the 12 that you can find at Michael's. And what I think is really interesting about, I mean, this is also true for your fancy flosses of Gentle Arts and Weeks and Classic Colorworks, is some of them are more subtle. I'll call this one of the subtle ones. And some have the, oh, and I love this one. Again, it's not showing, it's, and some of them are a little bit more not so subtle. Now, of the ones that that I was able to find at Michael's, and the ones that I think the only ones you can find at Michael's, most of them have a nice subtle change to them. I suppose, I mean, again, here's the one that's my favorite. Here's another one that involves blues and purples. This one would definitely have, if I were stitching with it, you would definitely see the difference more than this one. Then I discovered that, all right, well, I couldn't buy that 60 pack of them, which is fine. But where could I get these others? I know my LNS has some variations. And then I, again, just got obsessed with it and discovered that, well, yes, I could buy them individually. 1, 2, 3, I didn't count completely, but I believe all 60 of them are available on 1, 2, 3. But there's also these packs. And so, yeah, I ordered 2 packs. These, I found them on Amazon. You can get them other places, but I found them on Amazon. So I now have 16 more, 2 packs of 8. This is the Amazon themed pack. Am I missing one? Yeah, no, there's 8 that kind of fell off. I left them on here for the sake of this so I could show them easily, and I'm going to pull them off when we're done here. Many of these I could see why they would fall under sort of that theme Amazon. This one I'm confused about. But this purple and yellow is a perfect example of what I was talking about before of a non-subtle variations. DMC also has another line called Colorist. It's the word color followed by IS, and my brain calls it colorist. If there's another way to pronounce it, please let me know. Those are, to me, very harsh variations. I tried stitching with it once, and I did not like the way the colors played out. The variations are more subtle. That said, this one here looks a lot more to me like the color changes that show up with that colorist, meaning very strikingly different. This one right here with that bright orange and yellow, I mean, that's a great fall one. I think that one is even called 4122. Fall Harvest. But there's some pretty strong differences between that yellow and that orange. So, and again, I could see why these fall under these are our Amazon collection, which ironically, you go to Amazon, you search Amazon collection, and then you see that collection somewhere else and you get so confused. But the name of it is Amazon. You can buy it on Amazon. And again, confused about this guy. And then the other, I gotta look, I know I have in the boxes. Some of these were falling off their stickiness. Oh, pause. One of these doesn't belong here. I have 9 that are stuck to this. One of them does not belong here because there should only be 8. I'm thinking it's probably this one, 4130. I don't know. Oh, no. Okay, I think this one doesn't belong here because this is called the Holiday Collection. Um, okay. Obviously a Christmas one. Obviously one that is very not subtle. You have to have a kind of fabric that you could stitch white, green, and white, green, and red and have it all show up nicely. But hey, you might. Here is another green, which is not the same as the green that I was showing you before. It's a bit more of a deeper green. I think this is more of a spring green. This is more of a winter green, so it works out perfectly of what I want to do. Here's another one. I love these colors. I'm not sure what I think of them all together in one thread. And when I first saw this one, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like it's a relative of the one that I love. And I do love it, but there's some pretty different change. You see that purplish, you see a deep, deep, I mean, it's like a navy blue, not black, but it's a deep navy blue. So I currently own 16, 28, 28 or 29, I might have an extra somewhere, of the variations. I'm intrigued by it. The ones I have used so far, which have been that green and the blue variations, I've loved the way they've played out. I used the original, that 115 in a red, for a design as well. I'm just curious to play with these some more. The harsh ones, I'm saying now I don't like it, but I should do what I practice what you preach. Give it a try. Maybe I'll have something to report back about those at some point. Anyway, this is my current little obsession. I have my list of the Amazon collection, the holiday collection, and the M comes from Michaels. And at some point, might I be collecting all the rest just to have a complete collection? I just might. We shall see. All right. I knew there wasn't a super amount for me to share in today's Flosstube, but I so appreciate you being here. Again, my new patterns. Again, my sale. If you have any comments about using Flosh or using variations or where you find them or anything at all, I always love the conversations that happen in the comments. That was truly one of the things that first appealed to me when I first discovered Flosstube, was reading comments and starting to see some of the same names going back and forth. I'm like, wow, that's a community there. And I was very glad to join this community. Last quick thing, I just realized my stitching retreat for next summer, which is now called Stitch NJ 2023, takes place in central New Jersey. I'm working, registration, let's just put it this way, I'm basically filled, but I keep a good wait list because I know there will be people who cancel. Like, this is my 4th time running it. I got a little experience here. I know that's going to happen. So if you are at all interested, I'll put a link to the Google form that'll give you the basic information. And to sign up there is just putting your name on a list. It's not committing to anything. And when and if I have spots, I contact folks. It is July 13th through the 16th in central New Jersey at the Hampton Inn Woodbridge. Woodbridge, New Jersey, not Woodbridge, Virginia, because there's one there. So I'll put some stuff in the bottom about that. Thank you so much for being here. We are so aware that there are so many wonderful options of Flosstubers to watch, and I very much appreciate you. So as always, the likes and the comments and the subscribes, they make the difference for the YouTube algorithm, and I appreciate it, and I try to give to everyone that I watch as well. Thank you so much for being here. Till next time.